All right, I know some of you sat in on my morning session and I went through my background with you. I'm going to go through that again for the benefit of those that have not heard my background for this session. I'll try and shorten it up just a touch. I'm originally from upstate New York, went to college at the State University of New York at Buffalo, got a bachelor's degree in genetic engineering and psychology. I went to Texas A&M University, got a master's degree in genetic engineering, and then got a PhD in psychology from Addison University, specializing in conscious, subconscious, and superconscious mental reprogramming models. I worked for 1 year in Princeton, New Jersey on the genetic mutation of steroid growth hormones for cows and pigs. I worked on the BST milk project, and I also worked on the PST pig project, which was a growth hormone mutated, modified, and injected into farm pigs to see if we could reduce the fat content in pork and improve the meat quality. And whenever you fool around with Mother Nature, sometimes you get a weird side effect. And we were able to develop a variation of the growth hormone injected into little farm piglets, and they'd grow to about 1,200 pounds in 3 months. 7 feet tall, 7 feet long, 3 feet tall, 3 feet wide. They could run 30 miles an hour. They had 10 times the metabolic rate and healing ability of a normal pig. So it was like a pig on crack. And they become totally carnivorous and cannibalistic when they get over 700 pounds. So if you don't feed them meat, they eat each other, starting with the smallest first. That was not a good marketable product to sell to the Iowa and Minnesota hog farmers, that we turn the pigs into ravaging bands of carnivores that eat all the livestock and themselves. So it was a USDA funded project. They dropped the funding for the project when they saw our research results. And then 2 months later, the US Army came in, confiscated all our computers, tranquilized all the live animals, loaded everything into black unmarked semi-trucks, and shut our whole project down in 4 hours. That was an interesting day at work. Shortly thereafter, I quit. I started working for the Northrop King Seed Company at the research facility in Stanton, Minnesota, between Northfield and Cannon Falls. And I ran a DNA fingerprint research lab for Northrop King for 7 years. Worked on the Roundup Ready soybean project, the BT corn project, etc. Late 20s, went through a career shift, decided to go back to psychology. I started a privately funded research project. I used Tony Robbins, some of you are familiar with him, used him as a role model along with Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, Earl Nightingale, Napoleon Hill. And I started to really get into the personal development movement and study why some people are successful and the average person is not. So I spent about 10 years of research studying biographies, genetic histories, family trees, trying to figure out why it is that some people become very successful in their field and other people do not. And through that research, I found that there's 4 key factors. Peak performers work in areas where they have a natural talent or genetic skill. They are lifelong learners and goal setters. They are continuously trying to have a positive future view by setting personal goals, financial goals, work goals, etc. They have some knowledge of the tremendous potential that they have in their mind with their ability, their conscious, subconscious, and superconscious, and they have faith in themselves. They believe that where there's a will, there's a way. And if they set their mind to something, that they will be able to accomplish what they want to accomplish. I took that information, converted it into a book and seminars. I published my first book, The Power Mind System, in 1996. I traveled around the country for 2 years doing workshops, corporate retreats, hotel seminars, training people in the methodology of the peak performers to help them figure out what their natural talents and skills were, to help them set goals, to help them understand how to program their mind for success and how to believe and have faith in themselves. I got tired of flying all over the country every week, so I developed management workshops. So I train in it currently in about 40 different topic areas: past 5 years, I've been pulled in a lot of different directions to develop workshops and programs in safety, sports, athletic performance enhancement, using subconscious conditioning, post-traumatic stress disorder, experimental treatments, etc. So I work a lot with state agencies, Minnesota Social Services Association, work pretty close with them. A lot of different governments, counties, corporate, etc. So this is kind of the thing I do: breakouts, workshops, half-day seminars. About 60% of my business is this type of thing, about 25–30% corporate, and then I do research, and I have a private practice as well where I work with people on an individual basis, okay? So today I was asked to put together a program on the challenge to lead, how we all are leaders, whether we're leaders in our family, with our children, our partner, whether we lead a relationship, whether we have leadership impact, not necessarily the title, but maybe impact on our coworkers and the people that we work with on a daily basis. Even people that we see on a casual basis, somebody that you might see at a gas station, or someone that helps you in a grocery store, or a Target store, or a Walmart to find something. We have an impact on everybody that we connect with, everybody that we communicate with. So that's a little bit about what I'm going to talk about in this session. How you can make that impact benefit the other person and benefit you as well. All right, so we are all connected, okay? Everybody is connected to everybody else. You see your coworkers on a daily basis. You see your family members on a daily basis. Question for you: if you are going to talk with, say, your kid, if you have kids, or your partner, if you have a partner, and you call them up and they say hello, can you tell whether they're in a good mood or a bad mood? Just by one word over the phone, usually. Yes. And if they are in a bad mood or they're in a negative mood, your next response is usually, what's wrong? Okay? So a small impact like a word, a hello over a telephone, can trigger a response in you, an emotional response. You know something's wrong. If they're in a good mood, you might say, wow, you know, why are you in such a good mood? They don't have to say a lot. It's just a little bit of information, a little bit of impact goes a long way. You know if they're in a good mood, you know if they're in a bad mood. If they're in a bad mood, you're asking why. If they're in a good mood, you're asking why, okay? So everything you do, a glance, a look at someone, a smile at someone, a word, a phrase, etc., has an impact on how other people take you, how other people perceive you, and also influences their emotions as well. Okay? All right. Now, I want to show a short video clip here. This is a historical study, was done in the 1960s by Robert Rosenthal, called the Pygmalion Effect. And the experiment was originally done with teachers and students. But the key thing that a lot of people don't understand is later on, they did it with other people. They did it with teachers versus teachers. They did it with students versus students. So the interaction you're going to see on the video here is teacher-student interaction, but keep in mind that that interaction also extends to peers. Students working with other students, teachers working with other students, workers working with co-workers, etc. It's a very interesting psychological study, and what they came up with as a result, how one person can influence other people's performance, happiness, general mood, ability to learn, etc. So again, keep in mind that your impact, your influence matters. Okay.
Does it make a difference whether your teacher believes that you are a high performer or a low performer? That you are a late bloomer, that even though you haven't demonstrated your intellectual ability, you will blossom. Or you're not a good student or you're a good student. Psychologist Robert Rosenthal and school principal Lenore Jacobson did a remarkable study some years ago in which they told school teachers, elementary school teachers, that on the basis of some psychological tests, some of their students, some of the children in their class were designated as late bloomers. Even though they hadn't shown any academic success, they are expected to bloom. The amazing thing is that in a very short time, the teachers began to treat those children differently than the other kids. Those kids began to think of themselves differently, and in the end, they actually performed significantly better than the other kids. They were transformed by the teacher's positive expectations, the opposite of Jane Elliott's study, in which teachers' negative expectations that the teacher infused led them to think of themselves as inferior. So let's see the Pygmalion effect in action in these classrooms set up by Rosenthal and Jacobson.
Positive expectations can change a person's perception of a situation just as dramatically as negative expectations. Psychologists call this the Pygmalion effect, after the George Bernard Shaw play of the same name, in which even an uneducated ragamuffin can be transformed into a proper society lady. In an experiment conducted at an elementary school like this one, psychologist Robert Rosenthal and school principal Lenore Jacobson took the Pygmalion effect one step further.
What we wanted to show was the extent to which teachers' expectations could actually affect pupils' intellectual performance, for example, their IQ scores. So what we did was we tested everybody in a school with a test that pretended to be a test that would predict academic blooming, so-called Harvard test of inflected acquisition, and allegedly on the basis of that test, but not really, we gave each of the teachers in the school the names of a handful of children in her classroom that would get smart in the academic year ahead. These kids' names were taken out of a hat. We chose them by means of a table of random numbers. The children themselves did not know in any direct way that teachers were holding certain expectations for them. Teachers were told not to tell the kids, and of course we didn't tell the children either. So the children never knew.
6 times something that's close to 32. Good. 6 times 5.
And then when we tested the children a year later, we found that those kids who'd been alleged to their teachers to be showing or going to show intellectual gains, in fact showed greater intellectual gains than did the children of whom we'd said nothing in particular. So the kids actually got smarter when they were expected to get smarter by their teachers. We've come to feel that there are really 4 factors that operate in the mediation or communication of these self-fulfilling prophecies, especially in the classroom, but not only in the classroom. So what are these 4 things that teachers tend to do differently to kids for whom they have more favorable expectations? The first factor is the climate factor. Teachers tend to create a warmer climate for those children for whom they have more favorable expectations. They're just nicer to them, both in terms of the things they say and also in the nonverbal channels of communication. The other very important factor is the so-called input factor. That one probably won't surprise anyone. Teachers teach more material to those kids for whom they have more favorable expectations. After all, if you think a kid is dumb and can't learn, you're not going to put yourself out to try to teach them very much. 2 other factors, though, make a difference. One is the response opportunity factor. That is, kids get more of a chance to respond if the teachers expect more of them. They call on them more often. When they do call on them, they let them talk longer, and they help and shape with them the answers that the kids speak out, kind of working together to put the response out. The last is feedback. The feedback factor works in this way. As you might expect, if more is expected of a kid, the kid is praised more, positively reinforced more for getting a good answer out. But interestingly enough, is given more differentiated feedback when they get the wrong answer. One of the ways in which you can sometimes tell a little bit that the teacher does not have very high expectations for a kid is that the teacher is willing to accept a low-quality response, or it won't really clarify what would have been a good quality response. Maybe because he or she feels, well, what's the use? The kid's not smart enough to profit from this additional clarification. So those are the 4 factors: climate, input, response opportunity, and feedback.
Okay. To kind of review those 4 factors, this is kind of the bullet point off of that video. Climate, being nice, all right? So many times we're not nice to other people. We're in a bad mood, we got up on the wrong side of the bed, and we don't feel nice. We don't feel happy. Well, get happy, all right? The nicer you are to other people, smile at them, has an impact on them. Somebody comes in grumpy, you see a frown on their face, your question, just like on the telephone with somebody that's negative, what's wrong? What happened? And then you invite that. Second one is input. Teach more, talk to people more. Allow them to know what you're doing. Ask them what they're doing. You're in a college, you're in a learning environment. Teamwork is so important in this type of environment. It's important in any work environment, but especially in this type of work environment. Response opportunity, listen to what other people say. A lot of times we just blow somebody else off. They're like, well, they're stupid. I don't care what they have to say. They want to say something in a meeting, they want to speak up, and you think their input is no good. I do a lot of seminars now for Kraus Anderson Construction Company, and I had one of the project managers say, Mike, we always invite this one person to our project planning meetings, and most of the ideas they come up with are dumb, because I'll sit there and I'll shoot down their idea right when they say it. They say an idea, and he said, I'll be thinking in my mind, oh, it can't work because of this, 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 and this. And I told that manager, I said, what you need to do is not constantly shoot that other person's ideas down, thinking they're no good. I said, actually consider the idea. I said, immediately you're thinking how you can shoot the other person's idea down and how it won't work. I said, the next time they come up with an idea, I want you to be thinking in your head, how could I make that idea work? Instead of why it won't work. So the what if idea versus the it doesn't work or it can't work. He sent me an email back later, two weeks later. He said, Mike, weird. He said, same person, same what I used to consider dumb ideas. He said, half of the ideas actually could work. He said, I was just never looking at it from the possibility of how could this idea work? I was always looking at it from, it won't work because of this, this, and this. So a shift in that person's mental attitude to consider the feedback, to actually listen to what the person had to say versus trying to shoot the idea down immediately, had a major impact. He said that person comes up with a lot of creative ideas. He said, so this is actually a good thing. And I'm like, well, what did you think it was going to be? He said, oh, well, I was blowing your stuff off as dumb psych stuff. I said, oh, well, there you go. Anyway, number 4, feedback. Praised and complimented, also coached them when they were wrong. People get things wrong. People don't do things right all the time. But what is your impact on that person? Are you like, well, that's wrong, don't ever do that again? Or are you coaching them? Are you helping them? Doesn't have to be somebody that works for you. Could be a coworker. Could be a manager. Sometimes you got to coach your managers. Sometimes you got to coach your leaders. They're not perfect either. So you can help them as well. It's an interactive environment, up, down, sideways, etc. Peer relationships, subordinate relationships, staff relationships, superior relationships. It doesn't matter. You all work together. I mean, I think it's excellent. You said the president's going to do a presentation later on today. I mean, what a great thing. I mean, you should all be there. You should get as many people as you can to go to that. They want to share. That person wants to share their views, what they think. You should go and listen. You're all part of the community. You're all part of the environment here. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Every day you'll have opportunities to influence others. And you never know when somebody is going to listen to what you say and take it to heart, okay? So little things that you do, little things that you say can have a major impact on the other person's life, on their mood, on their day, on their future. I can give you a classic historical negative example of how people can influence other people in a negative way. If you think of the Columbine High shooters, the two student shooters in high school, when they developed their target list of who they wanted to shoot at that high school, it was not somebody that beat them up. It was not a teacher that bullied them on a daily basis. A lot of it was other students who may have said one thing to them 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when they were in 5th grade, when they were in 6th grade. But they remembered that. They remembered that one little thing, that one sentence, that snide comment, etc. I'm not justifying what they did. I'm just telling you that we studied this from a psychological aspect, and it was just little things that other people did to them, and they took it to heart and then took it, in an extreme negative direction, obviously. So that's a negative example, but there's positive examples as well. When you do things, when you say things to other people, it could be some small thing that you said to somebody which allowed them to break out of a negative mindset, which allowed them to get out of some trouble or some emotional situation that they happened to be in. Maybe just listening to what the other person had to say, allowing them to cry on your shoulder and to say something and have you actually listen and comfort them could be all that's necessary to put them on a positive track. Give you an example. When I travel a lot in my car, drive around a lot to the upper Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa. That's where I try and concentrate my efforts. I always have to gas up at gas stations. And there's a little Amcon station next to my house. And people that work at gas stations, a lot of times nobody talks to them. There's like a quick trip person, SA person, whatever. They're usually cheery, nice, they smile, they ask you if you need anything else, did you get gas, they ring up your stuff, ask you if you want a bag, hand you the stuff in a bag, and most people grunt at them. It's like, oh, here, here's your stuff, have a good day, and you're like, and you walk out. Or you get your coffee or whatever it happens to be, and, I've talked with them before, and they go, yeah, most people just grunt, they get this stuff, they're like, and they walk out, and they go, it's like you don't talk anymore, it's like, geez, they're like, I'd rather have a text message than somebody grunting all day. It's like, oh, here's your stuff, it's like, what is that, So I always try and talk with them, And my daughter, my older daughter, she used to work at Target for a summer job. And when she was younger, I always talk with clerks. I always talk with the people at a Target store, at a gas station or whatever. And my older daughter, when she was younger, she said, Dad, you're so embarrassing, just like shut up, it's like, don't like ask them if they're going to school or what they're doing, it's just like, get your stuff, give them the credit card and let's get out of here. It's like, you always want to chat with them, you always want to strike up a conversation. And my older daughter's Ariel, and I said, Ariel, later on you're going to see that I'm doing it for a reason, I'm trying to practice what I preach. I'm trying to have a positive impact on their day. Anyway, when she was a clerk at a cashier at a Target store, she said, Dad, it's like so weird. It's like everybody goes through the line and they just grunt and they don't say anything to me. She said, every once in a while I get somebody that was like you, that like asks me questions or says something to me. And she said, that's the highlight of my shift. She said, I'm always waiting for somebody to like talk to me or to say something rather than just grunting. So she said, I apologize for the years of telling you to stop doing that. She's like, that's good. Keep doing that. That's a good thing. Anyway, back to my illustration here. The Amcon station next to my house, I usually come in late at night a lot of times and I'll gas up for the next day. And I remember one night I pull in and they usually hire like high school students or, first, second year college students to work at this gas station, and it's high turnover. So I pull into the gas station and it's like 10, 11 o'clock at night on a Tuesday night, so not much happening in Farmington, where I live now, on a Tuesday night at 11 o'clock. So I pull in and there's this young woman working there, and I said, hi, I'm Mike. Who are you? And she said, I'm Ashley. And I said, I figured she's like 19, 20 years old. I said, what are you doing in life, Ashley? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, what are you doing? She said, well, I'm working here. I said, no. I said, what? I mean, you going to school? Did you graduate from high school? You know, what's your future plan? And she goes, well, I graduated last year, and now I'm working here. I said, are you going to college anywhere? You got some plans to go to college? I said, what are you doing in life? You're going to be here like 10 years from now. I mean, this is it. It's like you're like the Amcon cashier. It's like you're going to be like an expert at being an Amcon cashier all your life. And she's like, well, I never really thought of that. And I said, well, see, that's the problem. I said, you need to be thinking about your future. I said, what do you want to do? What do you want to do in the future? I said, you want to go to school? You want to go in the military? I said, well, she says, well, I'd maybe go to school. I said to Ashley, I said, you need to get more education. I said, high school education in today's society, it's not going to take you really very far. I said, you need to be thinking about some education. So I'm always pushing the post-secondary education. So she said, well, I don't know what I'm good at or what to major in. I said, oh, perfect. I said, out in my car, I have a 109-question natural talent and genetic skills test. We'll give you some good ideas on how you can figure out what your natural talents and skills are, and that's what you should base your career on. She said, who are you? I said, I'm the guy that helps people like you. I said, so I'll go get it. And she goes, all right. So I go out in my car and I get it. I usually carry a couple copies with me. And I gave it to her and I said, here. I said, while you're sitting around here bored, not doing anything, working at Amcon, I said, you fill this out and I'll come in a week or two and, you know, review it with you. I'll go over the answers, give you some interpretation, give you some life direction. She's like, oh, okay, cool. Anyway, I go in about a week later and I asked Mike, the owner, I said, what happened to Ashley? And he said, oh, I had to fire her. I said, why'd you fire her? He said, well, she was stealing chewing tobacco and cigarettes and stuffing them in her purse at closing time, and I saw it on the security camera, and I showed it to her, and, you know, then I fired her. She was stealing tobacco products. I said, oh. He goes, did you give her a natural talent and skills test? I said, yeah. He said, well, she's not here anymore. I said, all right. Anyway, week later, I'm gassing up at Quick Trip. And Ashley's there. And I said, Ashley, do you remember me? She goes, how could I forget? I said, did you do the natural talent and skills test? She goes, no, I got about halfway through it. I said, you know what? I said, we need to start with work ethic with you. I said, you're not ready for the natural talent and skills test. We got to talk about just basic work ethic. I said, we need to talk about some things you need to do, you know, on the job. And so I told her, I just give her this little lesson. I said, here's some things on basic work ethic. I said, number one, don't steal time. What does that mean? That means show up for work on time. Don't show up late. That's stealing time. I said, when you go on break, you know, respect the break times, respect the lunch time, respect the closing time. I said, be respectful of the time that you're supposed to be on the job and being paid to do the job that you do. I said, second one, don't steal products. I said, don't take stuff. I said, that the stuff on the shelves, I said, that's not yours. I said, that's the organization's to sell to customers. I said, so don't steal. And she said, I asked her this question too before I started going through this, because I was trying to see what the issue was. So let me back up a little bit here for you. I asked her why she wasn't at Amcon, okay? And this is key. This is key on listening. Remember I said listening features from the Pygmalion effect? I said, why aren't you working at Amcon? And here's the answer she gave. She said, because I didn't know they had a security camera. Okay? Now that gives you insight into Ashley's thinking. It wasn't the stealing that she thought was the problem. It was the security camera that she thought was the problem. So I told her, I said, just assume that they have a security camera wherever you work and don't steal product from them. She's like, yeah, I got that one down now. Okay? All right. Next one, positive attitude toward everyone. Be cheery. People want to be around other people that are positive, that are in a good mood. You're like a magnet if you're a positive person. Why? Because most people aren't. So if you're the positive person, you're like the light that the moths all fly around. They're like, wow, you know, somebody bright, somebody light over here that'll listen to me, that's helpful, that's cheery, that's in a positive mood. Okay? Do what is asked of you. A lot of people won't do that. They're like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's like, hello, it's like, this is not called vacation, it's called job, it's called work, you know. Sometimes you're asked to do things you don't want to do. That's why you're paid, you know. It's like, well, I wouldn't do this if I wasn't paid. Well, great, you know, don't. When you go home, you don't have to do it, you know. It's like, gosh, I get into a lot of interesting conversations with people, especially unemployed folks. When I go do seminars for the workforce centers in Minnesota, they got lots of reasons on why they're not working. And I'm like, well, you know, why aren't you working? Well, I didn't want to do this. It's like, did they pay you? Uh-huh. It's like, well, why didn't you want to do it? Because I don't like doing that. I'm like, well, that's why you're unemployed. You know, you wouldn't do what you were asked to do. They're like, oh, yeah, you know. It's like, I don't know. I love going doing seminars there. I mean, I think I'm a rocket scientist. I love it. I had one guy in there doing interviewing skills, and I said, what do you say when they ask you your weaknesses? And he says, well, I tell them that, you know, I've been on my meds and they're working really good for my anger management, and I don't get furious and explode at people anymore as long as my dosage rate is right. That's what he said for his weakness. I said, don't ever say that. I said, no one is going to hire you if you say that in today's environment. He goes, really? I'm like, yes. Anyway, that's just a bonus tip for you there. All right. Next one, learn your job and more. Okay, so if training is offered in skills, job skills, software programming, any training is offered, go to the training. Okay, anything that's offered, you take it, and then do quality work and do it fast. People love speed, people that can work quickly, people that can get the job done in a reasonable amount of time. So I went through this basic with Ashley, basic work ethic, because this is all she had working for her. She didn't have any education working for her, so she's got to work with just basic work ethic. Ashley sends me an email 2 months later. She said, you know, weird thing? She said, I got promoted. I go, how'd you get promoted? She said, well, I don't know if it's anything that I did in particular, but all my coworkers got fired because they were stealing stuff, they were showing up late, they had a negative attitude, and they didn't do what they were told to do. And I'm like, well, there you go. A year later, she got offered managerial training, to go to management training to learn how to manage multiple stores, etc. She said, should I go? I said, yeah, remember I told you, take training. Training's offered to you, take the training. Anyway, it's been about 5 years. She manages 6 stores. So, somebody that started with basically nothing, basically a thief, working in an Amcon store, transformed with just a few basics. All right? It's not like I sent and mentored her every day or every week or anything. Just gave her a few basics. Sometimes you can give somebody just a few basics. A couple little things that you say, sticks with them, they take it to heart, they run with it, can help improve their life. Okay? When you interact with other people, ask yourself the question, am I saying something, am I doing something that is helpful to this person, or am I saying or doing something that's going to cause them a problem in the future? If you filter your communication with that question before you speak, before you act, before you do anything, is what I'm going to do with this person helpful to them? Think about that with your relationships, with your spouse, your partner, etc. When you interact with them at dinner, after dinner, in the evening, with your kids, I know it's a challenge with the kids, is what I'm saying going to be helpful to them? Okay? It's easy to be negative, but is that helping them? Usually it's not. Okay? All right. Another example. Okay? Now this is a cool example because it allows you to see the concept of X-ray vision. All of you in this room have the capability of X-ray vision to influence others. And that is, you can see what they can't see. So that's what I mean by X-ray vision. How can you help somebody else by seeing what they don't see? And I'll illustrate that with this example. I had a woman come to me, and she said, you know, Mike, she said, I've been suffering with depression for several years now, and been to multiple doctors, not really getting much help, not improving my condition. She said, so, you know, somebody recommended you, said you're like the psych mind guy, you know, subconscious programmer, whatever that is. So, like, work your magic on my head and see what you can do. And I said, well, that's not usually the way I work. I said, we're not going to burn incense and, you know, move rocks around and stuff. I said, that's a different deal. I said, let's just do a basic analysis. She said, okay. I said, well, I'll meet you at a coffee shop, and we'll just sit down and have a chat. Okay? Now remember, I'm trying to illustrate X-ray vision, and I want you to have X-ray vision too with other people. When people are involved emotionally in a situation, it blinds them to seeing what the core problem is. But if you are not emotionally involved in the situation, you have X-ray vision, because you can see what they can't see. Okay? So I sit down with her. She's about, I asked her how old she was. She's about 27 years old, attractive, fit. I asked her, I said, do you have a partner? She said, yep, got married about 4 years ago, got a husband. I said, so I'm going through the basics with her, like the basics of work ethic with Ashley. I'm going through the basics of analysis with this woman. So I said, okay. I said, so how's your relationship with your husband? I said, is that going good? That okay? She said, yep, good relation with my husband. He loves me. I love him. It's all good there. She said, I got a 2-year-old daughter. I said, how's 2-year-old daughter? Things going good there? Husband like the kid? You like the kid? It's all good? Nice, happy little family? I said, yep, everything going good. Love our daughter. It's great. Good addition to our family. It's good. I said, okay. I said, what about finances? How you doing with money? I says, you totally in debt? I says, you got no money? You broke? I said, no, we're doing okay. He works, I work. We got a starter home. Working good there. Both got vehicles. Get us to work and back. I said, okay, got vehicles, got transportation, got the kid, got money, got emotional support. I said, wow. I said, usually I can discount 90% of the people with something in that area. She's like, nope, that's all good. I said, what about your job? I said, you hate your job? No, job's good, like my job. So what about your husband? He hate his job? No, he likes his job. I said, so everything's good. You're working, got vehicles, got a house, got a kid, got your family started, got good relationships. She said, yeah. I said, I don't know. Why are you depressed? She's like, I don't know. That's why I'm talking to you. I said, well, tell me how you start your Monday morning. She said, well, I wake up, the alarm goes off, and she said, usually I got some text messages from my mom. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, what's that about? She says, well, my mom's kind of negative, you know. She doesn't really like my husband, thinks I shouldn't have married him, and doesn't like the way I'm raising my kid, thinks I should do different things there. I said, yeah, okay. I said, so then what? She says, well, I read the text messages from my mom, and then I go to the bathroom and I get ready for work and stuff. And I'm thinking about what my mom sent in the text messages, and it really irritates me. And I said, okay. I said, then what? She said, well, then I get in my car and I drive to work. It's about a 20-minute commute to work. And I call my mom. And she said, we usually get in a fight because I'm talking to her about the text messages she sent me. I said, okay. And then what? She says, well, then I get to work and I'm kind of irritated and irritable and crabby. And I said, and then what? And then she said, well, then I get my break time, and my mom sent me a whole bunch of text messages about our fight in the car on my way to work. So then I text her back because I don't have time to talk to her, but I call her at lunchtime. And then we talk more at lunchtime. And then we text message in the afternoon break, and then I call her on my way home from work. And then I get home and I'm all in a crabby mood with my husband when he gets home from his job. And then we get in an argument about my mom. And I said, I think I found your problem. Now, do you have X-ray vision? Can you help me out with her? All right, so what's Marissa's problem? Marissa's problem is mom, okay? So I told her, I said, here's what you need to do. I said, you need to get rid of mom. I said, you're 27 years old. I said, you got a husband, you got a kid, you got your family started, mom's negatively impacting you. I said, she's got to go. And she had a look of horror on her face. And she goes, what do you mean, get rid of her? And I said, no. I said, poor word choice. I said, I mean, you got to like cut back on your phone calls and your text messages, etc. And she's like, oh, okay, I can do that. She said, my mom won't be happy. Can I blame it on you? And I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. I said, tell her I told you to do it. You know, you're seeing a psychologist, and he says it's what you're supposed to do. And then she calls me up. She says, well, I'm going to do it Saturday morning. She says, usually I talk to my mom for 3 hours on Saturday morning. So she said, that's going to be my time to kind of cut mom off and tell her about our conversation and that, you know, we're going to talk maybe once a month. And I said, yeah, that's good. I said, tell her once a month. All right? Anyway, she's nervous about it because this had been going on for years. You got to remember, emotional situation had been going on for years with the person. Hard for them to see what the situation is and how bad it is. She calls me at noon on Saturday. She said, my mom wants your address. I said, you didn't give it to her, did you? And she said, I did. And I said, oh. I said, now what? She said, well, here's the deal. She said, I called my mom, told her the situation, and my mom said that she wanted to talk to me because she wanted to thank me because it has been so stressful the past 5 years trying to run her life, trying to run how she's raising her kid, trying to run her relationship. She said, the mom's talking, she said, I was absolutely going crazy. She said, it's too much for me. She said, you got to move out on your own, Marissa, and handle your own stuff without me trying to run everything for you. She said, I just didn't know how to break that to you because we'd been in this relationship for so many years. I thought you needed that. Simple. But for the people involved, not so simple, okay? It's just one little piece of advice. Again, it's not like I worked with her week after week, month after month, year after year. It was just a basic analysis. You could do the same thing I just did. You already knew the answer to the problem, locked in a negative emotional relationship, cut that back, everything changes for the mom and for the daughter, okay? All right. Emotion clouds vision. You can help influence if you are not emotionally involved in the situation. Many people need help here, okay? So this is a lot of cause for strife and struggle for people. And it doesn't have to be a serious relationship like a partnership relationship. It could be a negative coworker relationship, negative interaction between two people at work, okay? That can be solved a lot of times by a third party, okay? All right. Use your X-ray vision if you're not emotionally involved or financially with the situation. Luck factor. The more you positively influence others, the luckier you get. It's like universal karma. You send out positive vibes, those positive things come back to you. Call them lucky breaks. Might not come back immediately, but eventually they come back on you. So why should you be a beacon of positive energy for other people? Because eventually you're going to get the things that you need too. Okay? You're positive to other people, it comes back on you. You're negative to other people, that comes back on you too. What's the phrase? What goes around comes around. And that is true. Okay? We are all connected to some degree. Okay? So decide the things that you want and help others get what they want. So, a little side note on Ashley. Ashley's father called me about a year after I had contacted Ashley with the talent and skills test and the work ethic and stuff. And he said, you don't know me, but you know my daughter. And that's always a scary way to start a conversation. All right? And I said, okay. He said, my daughter's the one that got fired from Amcon down in Farmington for stealing. He said, I'm one of the vice presidents at 3M. He said, she's told me about a lot of the interaction you've had, showed me that talent and skills test that you gave her. He said, I want you to come up and talk with our team on team building, work ethic, leadership challenges, etc. He hired me. Ashley's dad hired me. I didn't know Ashley's dad, never asked to meet him, had no idea what his position was or what he did. Didn't expect anything back from Ashley ever. It turned out to be a huge 3M contract for me doing leadership training for the whole team of this guy's group up there. I didn't expect it. You might call it luck. It was just a lucky break. I call it psychic karma. All right. Of course, it was going to come back at some point in time. Okay. Don't know where, but it comes back. Same thing will happen to you. All right. Another woman I'm working with out in Wisconsin, met her in a supervisory seminar, comes up to me after the workshop. She goes, Mike, I hate my job. She said, I've been doing it for 6 years. I'm a travel agent in Wisconsin. She said, I got into the travel industry because I wanted to travel, not help other people travel. So she says, looking at all the brochures and booking their flights and stuff is depressing to me because I want to be the one doing that, not booking flights and doing these things for other people. And I said, what are your opportunities? And she said, well, slim and none. She said, don't have a lot of money. She says, you got a husband, got 2 kids at home. I said, she was in her early 30s when I met her. I said, you're good at what you do. I said, why don't you go out on your own? Why don't you be a meeting planner? Why don't you work for some of these companies as a contractor? Oh, no, I can't do that. You know, don't know how to do that. Don't know how to get contracts. And I said, you do that all the time. That's what you do now. I said, what do you mean you don't know how to do it? She's like, oh, no, my husband won't support that. He won't like that. I said, well, talk with him. Calls me back a couple days later. No, husband says, can't do that. Don't want to do that. Got kids at home. No. All negative. She calls me back 3 months later. She says, Mike, I'm super depressed. She said, I was thinking about what you said about starting my own business, and I got no support, and this and that and the other thing. Don't know how to do it. I said, well, I'll sit down with you and tell you exactly how you do it. I said, you just make a decision in your mind that this is what you want, and you believe that it's possible for you instead of filling your head with negativity. And when you talk with other people, I said, listen, be cheery, be helpful, be nice, look for opportunities when they present themselves. No, I can't do that. I'm negative. I'm sour. I hate my job. I said, that's what you got to do. I said, just basic steps, 1 through 6. It's not 1 through 1,000. It's like 1 through 6. Anyway, she calls me up the end of the year. Mike, it's Christmas time. I'm not happy. I don't like my job. I said, I told you what to do. I said, you got to do what I told you to do. I said, otherwise nothing's going to change for you. 3 years this went on, okay? And, I'm telling her the same exact thing for 3 years. She's not listening, not doing it. I only have so much impact, I can only say so much. I just keep working the same message that I tell everybody. I tell her, anyway, she says, well, I want to meet with you. I said, okay. I said, drive out here and meet with me. Oh, I got to drive out to Farmington? I said, yeah. She's out in Green Bay. I said, I'm not driving out there to tell you the same things I've been telling you for 3 years over the phone. I said, you got to show some determination. All right. Anyway, she drives out to see me. I told her the same things I would say. She's like, you're saying the same things you told me over the phone. Why did I drive out here? I said, I don't know. I said, but you're showing some determination. Anyway, she said, all right, I'm going to write it down, make a vision board. I'm going to do it. So she made the decision, all right? She did make the decision. And once she made the decision, within 60 days of her deciding that she wanted to do it, one of her company contacts called her up and said, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but we'd like to just work with you and not your company. They said, is there any way that that's possible for us to do this? And it was a big enough contract where she could leave her job. And I said, well, make sure that you don't have a clause where you can't work with your clients. And she said, we do, and it's 6 months. I said, then you're going to have to put them off for 6 months. So she did. She said, I got a 6-month clause, can't work with you on my own for 6 months. After that, I'm free. Worked out. 6 months later, she quits her job. She works for them on a contract basis. It was a boat company. That company told her about other boat companies, which told her about other boat companies. And she networked with a whole bunch of boat companies, and she got more business than she could handle individually. She calls me up a year later. She said, Mike, huge problem. I said, what? She said, I can't handle all the business that's coming my way. What do I do? And I said, hire help. She goes, but I never ran a company. I don't know how to hire somebody or what to do. I said, who do you know that needs a job? She says, well, my sister hates her job. I said, fine, hire your sister. She said, okay. So she hired her sister. And then she hired her sister's husband to work for her. And then she got contracts to do these corporate meetings where they wanted her to come. They're like, well, we don't want you to just set up our stuff. We want you to come. You got to be our tour guide. You lead us around to different places. Anyway, she's been doing this now for 10 years. And then she sends me pictures of where she's been, different places that she always wanted to go. So when the customers ask her, where should we go for our retreat? She says, well, we should go see the Blarney Stone. And they're like, yeah, cool. So then she gets to go see the Blarney Stone. And then they went out to Stonehenge. She always wanted to go to Stonehenge. So she sends me the picture. It's like, hey, look at that. Dream come true. These are dreams that she had since she was a little kid. These are like dreams she had when she was 10, 11, 12 years old. Wanted to go see the Blarney Stone, Stonehenge, the pyramids, all different places. She's been to 19 foreign countries in the past 10 years and fulfilling her dreams along with other people's dreams as well. So it can work. Make the decision, be positive, have a positive impact on other people. It comes back to you. This is kind of an interesting little side note. This was like almost a little experiment. It kind of surprised me, actually, on the concept of influence. My older daughter, when we got her first car, was a '97 Honda Civic, white. After 6 months, she smashed it into a snowbank and knocked out the front bumper. And we called the car One Eye, because it looked like it just had one eye, like this, okay? And that irritated me. All right, so I want to get it fixed. So I take it to a body shop, and they wanted more money to fix the bumper than I paid for the car. So I said, well, forget that. I'm not paying thousands of dollars for this '97 Honda Civic. So I had been thinking about it for about 6 months after it happened, that I wanted that bumper fixed. Now, I'm not saying that this works all the time. All right, I'm just giving you a personal experience here. And this one even surprised me. So 6 months later, after we're driving around with this broken bumper, and I saw it every day in the garage as I'd go to work, because she parked her car in the garage and I kept mine outside. I happened to be driving her car to get it oil changed at the Amcon shop on a Tuesday morning down in Farmington in the summer. I don't normally drive her car, but I was driving it to take it down and get the oil change. She was going to school. I stopped in the Farmington bakery to buy some donuts. That was not unusual. And I get out of the bakery and I start the car and I start down the road, and some guy that I'd never seen in my entire life starts screaming, "Stop, stop, I got your bumper." I see him in the rearview mirror. I keep driving, okay? It's like, I don't know who this guy is, what he's doing, what's going on. I keep driving. He's running behind the car in the rearview mirror, screaming, "Stop, I've got your bumper." Well, finally I pull over. He comes up to me, he goes, "Is this a '97 Honda Civic?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I got your bumper." I said, "Okay." I said, "Where is it?" He said, "Well, it's at my body shop about 2 miles outside of town." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "Well, why don't you follow me out there?" And now I'm getting nervous. But I'm thinking, I live 2 miles outside of town. So where he wanted me to go was kind of out by where I live. And so I said, all right. And I'm thinking, well, I don't need to get out of the car. I'll just go out there. And it's daytime, so I'm feeling better. So I go out there. And he pulls out a shrink-wrapped, primer-painted bumper for a 97 Honda Civic. And he holds it up there and he said, yep, this is it. It'll fit perfect. He said, it's primered from the factory. He says, I'll put a coat of white paint on it, put it on your car and be dry and be ready in 2 days. I said, okay, how much? He said, well, here's the weird thing. He said, about 6 months ago, I had a woman come in on an insurance repair on a front bumper on a 97 Honda Civic, and Honda sent me 2 bumpers by accident. And he said, so I replaced hers, didn't know what to do with the other one, so I said I've had it sitting on the shelf in my shop until I saw you at the bakery with a broken front bumper on a 97 Civic, and I tracked you down. So he said, I'll just charge you $100 because I got the bumper for free. I said, deal. Cut him a check for $100. He called me 2 days later. No more one eye. Now you might look at that story and say, oh, well, that happens to everybody. It's like, really? Really? People running you down with some old used car that you don't usually drive saying they got parts to fix it? No, there's something to that, all right? Anyway, we did a study on this, how you have positive impact on other people and how it can come back to you at a later date. I call it superconscious power or superconscious thought induction. And I wrote a book on it, on my case studies as well as several other people that I've worked with, to look at that specific aspect on how strange occurrences happen, things that we consider coincidence or lucky breaks, and how they're not really. If you track them in a journal and how you see when they occur, where they occur, what timing they occur, you can see there's an actual pattern. Part of our research on the peak performers, they had what we call patterned lives. Once they made a decision on a goal they wanted to achieve and they started being more positive to the people around them and having a positive impact, giving positive feedback to others, trying to help other people achieve their goals, they started to have lots of things happen to them that lined up to help them achieve their goals. So there's more reason to being positive and being nice and giving helpful feedback to other people. You'll start to see changes in your life if you're looking for them. Okay? Every day, you'll have an opportunity to influence those around you. My suggestion is try and make those interactions positive. If you do, you're going to see a lot of changes in them, but you'll also see changes in your own life. Okay? So, you have an opportunity for positive impact. You can clap for this session, or you can be silent. Thank you.